Hey there, friends. Recently, we've seen a ramp up in the rhetoric and the discussion regarding the Chinese Communist Party's ownership of the very popular app TikTok. You might be surprised at my stance on this issue. First, guys, go check out my friends over at CMMG, cmmg.com. These guys walk the walk. They don't just talk the talk whenever it comes to any kind of Second Amendment support. These guys are very active in the community as far as putting their money where their mouth is. Not only that, they make great firearms too. You can get your selection of calibers, Cerakote finishes, different types of action. One of the cool things about it is you also have a feature where you don't have to pay full price now. You can pay in payment plans. This is a pretty cool feature. Allows you to save a little bit of money now, keep some money in your pocket, and pay over the course of time. I recommend taking a look at this if it's something that fits your needs. Go to cmmg.com, use my discount code FTATF. Again, my discount code is FTATF. Receive 10% off your purchase at cmmg.com. The U.S. is once again considering another TikTok ban. TikTok, the immensely popular social media app, whose China-based parent company has given rise to concerns about data security and foreign influence, is once again in Congress's crosshairs. The Republican-controlled House will soon vote on a bill requiring TikTok either to be divested from ByteDance, that's meaning sold from its owner ByteDance, which is a Beijing-based owner, or face a nationwide ban here in the United States. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce unanimously passed the measure last Thursday, and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise said he will bring it to a vote as early as Wednesday. Divestment could mean selling the app to a U.S.-based company, although the specific definition of a qualified divestiture would be determined by the U.S. president. Remember all this, guys. Pay attention to this. The bill also creates a process for the president to designate certain social media apps as subject to the control of a foreign adversary, meaning other apps could be singled out as well. Folks, I want you to pay very close attention to this. A lot of people have an issue with TikTok. Personally, I don't use it. I think we might actually have a Legally Armed America TikTok, but it hasn't been accessed probably since TikTok came out. I know a lot of people have issue with it because the Chinese Communist Party own and they operate TikTok. What I mean by that is they may not have direct guidance over ByteDance, which is the company that owns it, but the Chinese Communist Party own ByteDance. The Chinese Communist Party has a stake, if not in partial or full ownership, in every single company in China. It's not like the United States. You don't have these independent companies out there. The government is in control of every single company in China, which means that if they want something to go viral, like they prefer China Joe over Donald Trump in the upcoming election, they can make something go viral regarding Joe Biden. It doesn't have to be legitimately viral. They can push that and make it viral. They can tickle the algorithm and push it in the direction that they want it to go in. They can also suppress things. So if they don't want Donald Trump to be president, they can suppress that. Chinese Communist Party has never been shy about censorship or anything along those lines. We don't have to look much further than 2020 when the Wu flu came out from a Wuhan lab. It was not from bat soup. It was from a test lab that, oddly enough, is right across the street from where the disease originated from. Weird how that happens, right? So they've already proven themselves to be propagandists, to lie, and to be willing to cover up something as big as a pandemic that, even though it wasn't as deadly as they advertised it to be, it was still affecting the entire world, right? So are there issues with TikTok? Of course there are. Are there potential security issues with TikTok? Damn right. However, anybody in their right mind, which I think that excludes a whole lot of people in the federal government, but anybody in their right mind who would be using TikTok on their own device that has any kind of security clearance or security related issues, like in the Pentagon, would be absolutely stupid knowing that the Chinese Communist Party possibly have a link directly to all the data on your device you're using to access TikTok. Now, with that being said, don't you think your government already has all that? Are we being this naive to think that the amount of control that the Chinese Communist Party has as far as intelligence and surveillance over its own people is much different than what we have here? Do you not think that Joe Biden and his cronies, from the Pentagon to anybody in his cabinet to everybody else out there, CIA, FBI, ATF, don't have similar surveillance and intrusion into our own lives and our own devices? That's why most of us don't care about what we say, because we know that anyone out there who would seek to do us harm or want to surveil us already are. So what does it matter what we say? They're already listening to our offline conversations anyway. But this paragraph right here is what bothered me the most. Divestment could mean selling the app to a US-based company, which is what they are pushing for. They are trying to say that if this is sold to a US-based company, they will consider allowing TikTok to be used in the United States. Really? That's what it takes. Most of the US-based companies are probably owned by China anyway. So it's still going to be indirectly owned by China. And again, I have to go back to, do you really trust somebody else in the States to have any control over that? But that's not the scary part. The definition of a qualified divestiture would be determined by the U.S. president. Currently, that is Joe Biden. Now, we know Joe Biden is not the one calling the shots in the White House, so those who are pulling his strings will be the ones making those shots, those calls behind the scenes on who this company could be that is, quote, qualified to purchase TikTok. So the United States, the White House more specifically, would have direct control over who bought TikTok. And read the next paragraph, or next sentence rather. The bill also creates a process for the president to designate certain social media apps as subject to control of a foreign adversary. How many times have you heard the whole Russia collusion thing? It took years before evidence came out that that was all fake. However, you still have people who believe that. So they were able to create this lie out of thin air that Russia got Donald Trump elected, right? And that Donald Trump had peed on a mattress in Moscow. Silly stuff, crazy stuff. That's all been debunked and proven not to be true. But there's still a massive swath of people out there who still believe all of this. So this means that all you have to do is convince somebody that they believe it's true, not that it's true, that they believe it's true. Convince a weak-minded group follower, group thinker, to believe something is true. And they're going to run with it. So the president would have the power to designate any of these apps that we use as conservatives and call them subject to control of a foreign adversary. Again, there doesn't have to be truth, right? The president is not going to be subjected to having to provide proof. All he's got to do is designate that. He could very easily say, Truth Social. That's Donald Trump's app. That would immediately, just by the lie that they already created that people are still running with, that would immediately be designated as subject to control of a foreign adversary. They would say Russia was controlling Truth Social. That's going to trickle down into other areas. Once you give them the opportunity to specify and hunt down various apps that they don't agree with the message that's being sent out, then they can go within these apps, like YouTube. You're watching this right now on YouTube. What do you think is next? Control within those apps, control within those programs. YouTube, for instance. Once the government gains control, you don't think that they're going to mandate various things with these apps? You don't think that just like they did with conservative radio. They determined, because nobody likes to listen to liberal radio, they determined that just because conservative radio was super popular and there were way many conservative radio stations out there than liberal stations, because again, nobody wants to listen to liberal radio, they decided that was unfair. And not because the market dictated that, not because the market said we don't want to listen to your liberal radio programs. They determined that since they didn't have half of the market in the liberal industry, radio industry, that they would try to push for and give them equal treatment. So if there were 100 conservative stations on the radio, there needed to be 100 liberal stations, even though nobody wanted to listen to these and everybody wanted to listen to these. That's the kind of control the government would have. Equality, diversity, equity, inclusion. So you would get to a point where, let's say YouTube, for instance, you know what? We've got way too many gun tubers out there. We've got way too many people like Paul at Legally Armed America, like my buddy Dan over at Heavy Duty Country, who are very conservative. Let's just call them extreme right. There's way too many of those, and there's not enough of the people that we like on the left. So we're going to need to implement a little bit of equality here. So Paul's going to have his stuff. Let's say we're not going to ban Paul's videos at Legally Armed America. Let's still let Paul make his videos. What we're going to do is we're going to crush them. We're going to suppress those videos to where nobody sees them, and we're going to bump that algorithm up for these wackos over here putting out these anti-gun videos. That way, at some point, they'll have at least the same amount of viewers as Paul, even though nobody wants to watch it. So we crush Paul's and elevate these other ones with an algorithm boost. Well, if nobody wants to see the ones on the left and they get 5,000 views on a video, they may only let my video have 5,000 views because that's equal, right? Let's make it equal. Not let the market decide. Let's make it equal. Everybody gets 5,000. In other words, we lower the bar to the point where the liberals on the left are setting that bar, and then we force that bar on the other side. Don't think that won't happen. This very bill that's also being pushed by Republicans, I might add. Let's not make this just an anti-Democrat thing. Republicans are pushing this. Remember, whoever is in power has the power, period. Do you really want, honestly, a Joe Biden administration having control over not only who buys various apps, but again, going back to who gets to decide now, one person sitting in the White House who has the least amount of experience and knowledge about technology now would be responsible for deciding if a particular app is subject to the control of a foreign adversary. Folks, sometimes things sound cool. Sometimes they just have this ring to it and you're automatically like, that's my cause. I'm going to grab that flag and run with it. Careful what you run with. This is by every single definition a Trojan horse. Do I like TikTok? Am I a fan of TikTok? No, I have no use for it. Do I think that it's super uber intrusive? Do I like the Chinese Communist Party having any kind of direct input into an app that these 12, 14-year-old kids are running around out there with? And they've even said that they would kill themselves, some kids have, if they didn't have TikTok. That's the kind of pushback they've gotten. That's how much these kids are involved in that. Do I like that? Of course I don't. But do I know that our government is capable of doing the exact same things that the Chinese Communist Party is doing? They just hide it a little bit better than the CCP does? Yeah, I'm very much aware of that. Be careful, guys. Watch what side you jump in on this. The last thing that we need to do is do just what the left does and wrap ourselves in emotion and dive straight into full support of a bill that is going to do nothing but limit your freedoms down the road.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.